Well, hello, everybody. It's Pastor Jason from Beth Eden Baptist Church, and it's so good to see you again. And today we're going to read another book, and a book that is going to be so helpful for you while you are staying at home with your family. I'm joined today by Olaf, which is Zacky's favorite stuffed animal, and yeah, he makes noises and lights up, and I think that's why Zacky likes him so much. And then I have Elijah's favorite stuffed animal. But you remember from the last video that this bunny, as cute as this bunny is, does not have a name. Elijah couldn't remember his name. I couldn't remember his name. My wife Bethany couldn't remember his name. And so we asked you to help us pick a name for Elijah's bunny. We could not believe how many people submitted names for this bunny, and all of the names were great. Now, I did not tell Elijah who submitted any of the names so that he would simply pick the name that he liked best. And it was a really hard choice for him. But when it was all said and done, he picked one name, and that name is, drum roll please, the name was Flopsy. Yes, one of the kids that watched the video last week, his name is James. He picked the name Flopsy, and Elijah thought that was the best name. So thank you everybody for participating. And James, we will send your prize in the mail. Now, I have a wonderful book to read tonight. This book is part of a series of books, parents, called Good News for Little Hearts. And parents, can I tell you a little bit about this series? Even before we had to stop gathering because of the coronavirus, we had purchased every book in this series, and we're going to put them out on Sundays so that you as parents could see them and maybe pick up the series for your kid's birthday or for Christmas or some other special event. The books are produced by New Growth Press, which is a publishing arm of CCEF, which is a biblical counseling training foundation back on the East Coast. And they have taken major themes of the scripture, themes that the Bible speaks very clearly to, like anxiety or anger, or how do you respond when you fail, or what do you do when you want something too much, or when you're sad or when you're lonely. And they have taken those themes and weaved them into children's books with clear Bible answers to those questions. And these books are available directly from New Growth Press, or they're also available on Amazon. And I would encourage you to check out these wonderful resources. And the first book that we're going to read in this series is a book entitled When You Are Anxious, Zoe's Hiding Place. The first page of the book has a verse that's very familiar to us, and that verse is Psalm 46:1. Remember that verse? That was the verse that was on the coloring page the very first week that we couldn't meet. That verse says, God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. And so today we're reading Zoe's Hiding Place by David Powlison, illustrated by Joe Hawks. The sun extended its morning glow to a light blue bungalow in Mulberry Meadow. Zoe, called Mama, it's time for breakfast. Zoe Mouse peeked out from under her purple patchwork quilt. This is my favorite place to hide. I feel so safe and cozy. No worries here. Zoe, Mama called again. It's time for breakfast. Finally, she jumped out of bed, dressed, and smoothed her long pink tail. Then, collecting her backpack and her favorite book of fairy tales, she pattered down the hallway, as quiet as a mouse, to join Papa, Mama, and baby Zach. "Good morning," she beamed. "Good morning, Zoe," replied Papa. Zoe hopped on her stool and started to eat her breakfast bowl of nuts and fruit. Mama noticed Zoe's fairy tale book peeking out of her backpack and said, "Remember to tuck that book away when you arrive at school. Miss Minich deserves your full attention." Zoe replied, "I will, Mama. I better go. I'll see you this afternoon." With the long walk to school before her, Zoe was free to dive into her book. She read a little, then walked a little, read and walked, imagining each and every detail. She barely noticed her friend Lila joining her along the way. Lila interpreted Zoe's thoughts with her usual string of "How do you do's?" "Good morning, Zoe. What are you reading? Would you like to sit together in class?" Zoe happily replied, "It's my new favorite fairy tale. I'm trying to finish it by the end of the day, and yes, I'd love to sit together in class." The girls entered through the thicket to where they gathered for school. They hung their bags on some handy branches and sat down on a carpet of clover, waiting for Miss Minich to start the school day. "Good morning, class," said Miss Minich. "I have a special announcement. The Mulberry Meadow Art Museum has invited us back for a visit. We will leave first thing in the morning." Lila turned to Zoe and whispered, "Isn't tomorrow going to be terrific? I can hardly wait." Waking up from her daydream, Zoe asked, "Hardly wait for what?" "Didn't you hear what Miss Minich said? We're going to the art museum tomorrow. I won't be able to think of anything else for the rest of the day." Zoe sighed. Great. Zoe didn't feel great. On her last trip to the art museum, there was a painting that reminded her of her favorite fairy tale. She was so busy looking that she didn't notice the class leaving. When she looked up, she didn't know what to do or where to go. It felt like I was alone forever. I never want to go to that museum again, she thought. Walking home after school, Zoe's mind filled with worries. She tried to read her fairy tale book, but thoughts of lonely rooms and scary pictures filled her mind. As Zoe neared home, she was filled with fear and worry. Once inside, Zoe hurried past Mama and Zach. She headed straight to her bedroom to be alone under her safe purple quilt. After a few minutes, Mama ventured down the hall to check on her. Zoe peeked out from under her quilt and slowly began to share her worries with her Mama. Mama had good listening ears. She said, "Every mouse experiences worry, and I can certainly understand why you feel anxious. We do remember trouble. We imagine it could happen again. We get scared and anxious. We want to keep safe. That's how God made us. It sounds like you might want to stay home from the field trip." Zoe nodded her head, yes. Mama continued, "Worry wants you to believe that you are all alone and God isn't with you to protect you. But that's not true. Jesus is with you. He cares for you. You know, I had lots of fears and worries when I was a young mouse. Your grandpa used to read to me from the great book. There's a verse in that book that says, 'God is your refuge, a safe place from trouble and fear.' That verse is true. You can trust God to keep you safe." "God kind of reminds me of my purple quilt," squeaked Zoe from under her quilt. "Yes, but so much better," Mama replied. "God is always with us. Another place in the great book says, 'I will never leave you or forsake you. You are mine.' So that means even though I can't see God, he is here," said Zoe. "Yes," said Mama. "Wherever you go, Jesus is with you. I still have worries too, but I ask Jesus for help. You can't change tomorrow by worrying, but you can tell Jesus your worries. Turn each fear into a prayer. He will help you. And don't forget how important it is to listen carefully to the people in charge of keeping you safe. Some of your worry might be helped if you put on your listening ears when Miss Minich is talking. The next day, Zoe awoke. During the night, scary thoughts had filled her mind, but Zoe remembered her talk with her mom. Jesus is with me. Jesus wants to help. And so Zoe prayed, Jesus, I know I have trouble listening and paying attention. I'm worried that today at the museum I will not listen and I'll get lost. I'm so afraid. Please help me. As Zoe was leaving for school, Papa gave her a slip of paper with words from the great book. She tucked the verse in her pocket. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious. Love, Papa. Papa gave her a kiss and reminded her, pull it out and read it when you feel afraid. On the path to school, instead of worrying, Zoe noticed how many shades of green were in God's world. And she didn't feel so alone. She knew that God was with her, and she felt his peace. Suddenly, Layla ran up, exclaiming, off we go! I'm so excited! I could hardly sleep last night. She took Zoe's hand, and together they ran the rest of the way to school and fell into line with the rest of the class, already waiting to leave for the Mulberry Meadow Art Museum. When they arrived at the museum, Zoe took a deep breath and prayed, God, help me to pay attention. Thank you for your listening ears. Thank you for never leaving me. The great oak tree guarding the entrance to the museum invited them in. The class walked into a room that Zoe had never visited. She was enthralled. There is so much to see. In all my worry, I forgot how much I loved the art museum. Each painting was from a fairy tale. Zoe's favorite was the mural of the mouse and the elephant. She imagined being the brave mouse courageously approaching the enormous elephant. Lost in the painting, Zoe didn't notice the rest of the class leaving. Suddenly, Zoe looked around. No one is here. The class is gone. I'm all alone. What should I do? Zoe remembered. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the note. The Lord is near. Zoe prayed right then and there. I'm sorry for not paying attention. I'm listening, Lord. Thank you for being near. Please help me to know what to do. Then she remembered that all she had to do was find the great oak at the beginning of the meadow. She walked out of the gallery and saw the great oak and her class in the distance. As she ran toward them, she heard her friends laughing and talking as they ate lunch under the trees. Miss Minich saw her and exclaimed, Zoe, there you are. I'm so glad to see you. I must do a better job keeping you with the class. Are you okay, my dear? Zoe replied, Yes, I am, thank you. I'm so sorry for not following you in the class. I am learning to have listening ears. And Miss Minich, I am more than okay. I'm learning a lot on this field trip. Isn't that a wonderful story, everybody? Isn't it wonderful the lesson that Zoe learned? She learned to trust God. She learned in that practical experience with Miss Minich and the lessons from her mom and her papa that she can, in fact, trust in the promise from God's word, from Psalm 46:1, from that verse that we learned the very first week when we were unable to gather together. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. What a wonderful reminder for us at this time. Hey, it was so good to see you guys again this week. I can't wait to see you the next time we're able to gather. And I have one more surprise. This is our second reading, but our third book, I've invited a special guest to do the reading. And he's going to do a special reading that we are going to include as part of our Easter Sunday morning live stream service. So I hope that you'll watch our Easter service with your parents, and you'll get to see that next book as it's read by one of our special guests. Have a wonderful week. It was so good to see you.